Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Once again, most welcome to your second session, Business Communication. In previous session, we discussed regarding different points. We defined communication and as well as gave you much more details regarding effective communication and so on. And today's lesson, we will go through one by one the types of communication. Communication has distinct types, which some of them are focused here. Communication is divided into four main types below. Based on parties, it is divided into two parts, which are internal communication as well as external communication. Internal communication is divided into two parts, vertical communication as well as horizontal communication. Once again, vertical communication is divided into three parts, which are downward communication, upward communication, and cross or diagonal communication. The second part is formality. Based on formality, communication is divided into two parts, which are formal communication as well as informal communication. Based on media, it is divided into two parts. One is verbal communication, and the second one is nonverbal communication. Verbal communication is once again divided into two parts, which are oral communication as well as written communication. The fourth and last one is based on the other. It is divided into two parts, which are mass or group communication, and the second part is interpersonal or intrapersonal communication. These two are different communications, intrapersonal as well as interpersonal communication. Each of these types or each of these communications will be discussed with more details. But initially, it will be better to define internal communication. یا ارتباطات یا communication الداخلي. This type of communication is taking place among organizational members inside the organization. It takes place across all levels and organizational units of an organization. What does it mean? This type of communication is done, or this type of communication takes place inside the organization. For example, accountables or responsibles or of different forces gather together. They have conversation with each other. They talk regarding difficulties and problems, and later on they find out a solution for this problem. uh, Vertical communication. Vertical communication, as we have horizontal communication and vertical communication, if we analyze this term vertical, then we will know what type of communication is this. Vertical communication, here the information moves completely from bottom to top. From bottom to top. It means from, we can say, middle manager up to high level top managers. The information is exchanged from bottom to the top. It means from the middle managers, the information is exchanged between middle managers and top managers. It is vertical communication. Vertical communication has two types, which are downward communication and upward communication. Downward, once again, if we analyze or if we think regarding this term downward, one is upward and the other is downward. What does it mean? In this type of communication, the information or message flow from the top of the organizational structure form the bottom level of the organizational structure. Downward, not upward. Downward, it means from the top level, the information flows from the top level to the bottom level. The top managers, they share their information with the middle managers or sometimes with low managers, because this is downward communication. And the other is upward. Upward, what does it mean? It means from up to down. The previous one or the above one was downward, it is upward. Upward is on the contrary of downward. In this type of communication, the flow of information is from lower level to higher levels in organizational hierarchy. What does it mean? It means lower managers, or we can say top managers, they take action to communicate with low managers, and middle managers, they take action to communicate with top managers. The communication is decided to be taken place, to be started from lower managers, or we can say from top middle managers with top managers. Due to that, it is named upward communication. This is the whole structure of internal communication inside the organization. The internal communication, as you see, in downward communication, the top manager communicates with the middle managers. After that, the middle managers communicate with the lower managers. But upward communication is on the contrary of downward communication. In this communication, the lower managers, they communicate or interact or discuss with the middle managers, and the middle managers, they communicate with top managers. It is upward communication. If you really think regarding this picture, or this we can say graph, it will clearly show you what are top downward communications and upward communications. The other is diagonal communication. Diagonal communication is the sharing of information among different structural levels within a business. It is diagonal communication. Here is the figure. Here is uh, we can say a graph where we see that the communication is different. It means it is not, for example, a manager communicate with top managers communicate with the lower manager. The sharing of information among different structure level within a business. If you see in this picture, if you think in this picture, the communication is a bit different. Here, the information is shared or exchanged between different or distinct structural or distinct members of an organization, as you see in this picture. Uh, the other is horizontal communication. Horizontal, if you think regarding this term horizontal, what does it mean? This type of communication occurs between or among people at the same level in the organization. Their level is the same. Or this communication, if you think regarding this picture, production managers, sales managers, as well as purchase managers, they are the same in their rank or in their position. All of them are managers, and this type of communication is done, or this type of communication occurs between or among those people which are the same level, as these people are the same level. For instance, let me give you an example. In your university, for example, if the heads of the departments come together and they communicate or interact regarding a problem, or regarding, we can say, something else. This is called horizontal communication because their level is the same. All of them are heads of the departments. Uh, the other is external communication. What do you think? What does external mean here? This type of communication is not inside the organization. External communication, while a business shares information with the other businesses or persons outside the business environment, it is called external communication. This is external communication. A company or a business uh, decides to share its information with the others. This communication is done externally, and there will be some benefits that both of these business companies want to, we can say, take action for in reach their benefits or goals due to that. External communication generally has different mediums of communication like email, advertisement, brochure, newsletter, calls, mobile, and so on. And this picture, if you think regarding this picture, we can say express the external communication and gives us information regarding the external communication. We see that different means or channels are used for communicative purposes in this type of communication. Uh, as I pointed out before as well, email, advertisement, brochure, newsletter, mobile, phone call, and so on. This picture best, we can say, effectively shows the, we can say, means which are used in external communication. The other is formal communication. In this part, we will come to formal and informal communication. Once again, if we think regarding these two terms, formal and informal, what does formal means? Formal communication, and what does informal means? Informal communication. Formal. Formal communication, we can define this type of communication which is done formally. It means for formal affairs or for formal places, this type of communication is benefited for formal places, for formal affairs, not for informal affairs. For example, board of trustees, or we can say, come together in an organization, they discuss regarding a problem or an issue. Later on, they find out, we can say, a solution. The other example is while the top management of your university came together and they decided for the online, we can say, course or for the online study. This was a formal communication, and due to we did this is called an online communication. Sorry, this is called a formal communication because the decision was formally taken. uh, Formal communication, this type of communication is done formally. I find it out pointed out before as well. It refers to the communication taking place through official channels in an organization. This type of communication takes place between managers or employees of the same cadres. Further, it may be written or oral. This type of communication is done, or we can say takes place through formal channels. For example, we want to write down an application later from one organization, it sends to the other organization for solving a problem. It is a formal, we can see, mean, or a formal channel, or a formal medium which is used for communication. Informal communication can be both written or oral. For example, we communicate face to face with each other regarding a formal issue. As you see in this picture, it is a type of, we can say, oral communication. Written communication, as I told you before, It will be an application later, which or a proposal which is sent from one organization to the other in order to solve a problem that came up. دیگه informal communication هست طوری که از نامش معلوم میشه informal یعنی غیر رسمی. غیر رسمی communication یا informal communication هست که به طور غیر رسمی انجام میشه، به طور غیر رسمی صورت میگیره. هنگامی که طور مثال دو نفر با هم یک جا میشه و راجع به یک موضوعی که یعنی خارج از رسمیات باشه با هم صحبت میکنه، این یک نوع کمیونیکیشن اینفورمال هست. طور مثال دوستا میشینه در بین خود راجع به یک چیز قصه میکنه، یعنی اینفورمال کمیونیکیشن یا کمیونیکیشن غیر رسمی، کنورسیشن غیر رسمی کنورسیشن هست یا کمیونیکیشن هست که کدام جنبه رسمی نداشته باشه. Informal communication, this type of communication doesn't have formal dimension or formal aspect. یعنی کدام جنبه رسمی نداره. There is no need to use per plan or official channel. We don't need, or we can say we do not prefer to use pre-plan, or we can say official channel. But we come together, we discuss or we communicate, we interact regarding something or someone. In this picture, two friends, or we can say two colleagues, they are communicating with each other, they are having a cup of tea, and this type of communication is called an informal communication because there is no plan as well as there is no any official channel. But in previous one, where we can see the above one, formal communication, you see that there is a formal channel, or we can say there is a formal mean which is used for formal communication. The other is verbal as well as non-verbal communication. Once again, you should analyze this term verbal and non-verbal. What does verbal means? Verbal means we can say oral. Verbal communication, this type of communication is done verbally. It means sometimes the verbal organs are used for this type of communication. For example, we communicate face to face with someone. Doubtless, we benefit from our mouth to communicate with the others. Verbal communication, when information is shared or exchanged through words with someone, is verbal communication. Doubtless, when the information is shared or exchanged with someone through words, it is what? It is a verbal communication. Verbal communication is divided into two parts, written and oral. Doubtless, written communication, verbal written communication, while you write down something and sends to someone, they reads your article or whatever you have been written. And the oral communication, doubtless you benefit from your mouth to communicate with someone. You communicate orally with someone. Verbal communication takes place through face-to-face conversation. This is the point I mentioned before regarding this as well. Group discussion. A group of people gather together, they listen to each other, they talk to each other, they exchange their waves, and so on. This is the verbal communication. For example, if you have seen, while many people gather together, interview, while some we can say people gather together, they ask some question from someone. This is also a type of verbal communication. Calls while you're talking on your mobile with someone, it is a type of verbal communication. Later, report, radio, all of these are the tools, or we can say means of verbal communication. The other is non-verbal communication. Non-verbal. It means this type of communication does not have any verbal aspect or verbal dimension. Is the process of communication through sending and receiving wordless message. Doubtless. It means words in terms and so on, they are not used in this type of communication. But this type of communication is done, we can say non-verbally. It means verbal means are not used in this type of communication. Let me give you an example. For example, body language. Body language is a type of non-verbal communication. یا ما شما میگیم زبان اشاروی. زبان اشاروی یکی از کمیونیکیشن یا یکی از کنورسیشن نان وربل هست. دو نفر بالخصوص کسایی که فرض مثال دیسابیلیتی داره یا نمیتونه گپ بزنه یا به گفته آمیان ما شما بگوییم که گنگه باشه، آنها نمیتونه با یک و دیگه صحبت بکنه و آنها کوشش میکنه که از طریق بادی لنگویج مسیج یا پیام بر یک و دیگه کنوی کنه یا یک و دیگه پیام بر یک و دیگه انتقال بسازه. شما دیدینی را و تصاویر زیلام نشان دهنده وربل و نان وربل کمیونیکیشن هست. وربل طوری که شما میبینین در تصویر اول وربل دو نفر با یک و دیگه صحبت میکنه، با یک و دیگه کنورسیشن یا کمیونیکیشن یا اینتراکشن انجام میده که یک وربل هست. وی گپ زدن میشه، یعنی وسایل بیشتری داره، یا از طریق تلفن اردو گپ بزنه یا فیس تو فیس یا از طریق رادیو پیشترم یادآور شدیم یا از طریق اینترویو یا دیسک، هر چیزی که باشه. مقصد وربل مین یا ماوث که استفاده شوه، یعنی words اگه استفاده شوه او چیست؟ او یک وربل کمیونیکیشن هست. و آن دی کانتراری برخلافش جایی که words استفاده نمیشه و یعنی body language استفاده میشه، اونو چیست؟ و میشه بگویم که this is non-verbal communication because words have not been used in this type of communication. We can say body language is used, or body language we use body language in this type of communication که بیشتر راجع به مثال communication non-verbal با شما بیشتر جزئیات دادم که تصاویر دیگه نشان دهنده خوبه non-verbal communication هست. دیگه group communication or we can say mass communication. بسیار خوب. group communication یا mass، ما شما یک کلمه داریم به نام، دو کلمه البته، mass media. mass اصلا چی معنی میته؟ mass or group communication, if you think regarding these two terms, mass communication is a type of communication in which we can say one person or an organization communicates with a group of, or we can say with a large number of anonymous audience. This is mass or group communication. چی معنی؟ یک شخص همراه با یک گروپ از اشخاص چی میکنه؟ interaction یا communication میکنه. A person communicates with a group of people. We can say an organization communicates with a group of, with a large group of audience. The audience, you know, it is anonymous. If you think regarding these two pictures, it, we can say clearly shows mass communication or group communication. Television. Television is a best, we can say, way of communicating with people. This person is, we can say, talking. This person is presenting something, but speech of this person, or we can say interaction of this person, is shared through different, or we can say distinct means with people. طوری که در تصویر مشاهده میکنین یک شخص است یا یک کس است، یک ژورنالیست است که یعنی امروز بیشتر مردم از طریق یعنی different channels communication میکنه. طور مثال ما و شما میبینیم که یعنی اینتراکشن یا یک کمیونیکیشن، یک هنگامی که یک ژورنالیست راجع به یک چیز در تلویزیون صحبت میکنه، خبرها را ارائه میکنه، خبرها را پرزنت میکنه از طریق رادیو و فیسبوک و یوتیوب و نیوز، هر چیز ما واره میشنویم. یعنی اینجا یک شخص همراه با یک گروپ از اشخاص که اشخاص هم انانیمس هست کمیونیکیشن میکنه. یا تصویر دیگه را میبینین شما، you communicate with we can say distinct or we can say different people around the world through different means. For example, radio, television, or we can say Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and other channels which are used for communicative purposes. یعنی هر دو تصویر نشان دهنده مس یا گروپ کمیونیکیشن است که پیشتر براتان یادآور شدم و براتان گفتم، واضح ساختم که یک شخص با یک گروپ از اشخاص یا آدینس انانیمس چی میکنه؟ یعنی کمیونیکیشن میکنه. انشالله اگر هر دو تصاویر شما تحلیل بکنین، انالایز بکنین، you will be able to get we can say what does mass or group communication is. The other is interpersonal communication. Besides, we will focus on intrapersonal communication. Interpersonal communication, when two or more people exchange their waves and information, is called interpersonal communication. Here both sender and receiver gives information to each other, such as doctor and patient. In this type of communication, two or more people communicate or interact or discuss with each other and gives each other, we can say one of them gives information and the other gives feedback. For example, doctor and patient. While a patient goes to doctor, or while a patient, we can say, talks to doctor, patient he gives information regarding his disease and the doctor gives feedback. And this type of communication is called interpersonal communication, because there is we can say information is given to we can say receiver, and the receiver provides feedback to the sender. The other is we can say intrapersonal communication. Intrapersonal communication, this type of communication is with we can say with one's self. It means a person communicates with himself. For example, if you have seen sometimes while we practice, for instance, I would like to present we can say in a workshop, or we can say in a session, I would like to talk, or we can say I would like to present my utterances in front of an audience or in front of a group of people. I should we can say practice for this. Sometimes I just stand somewhere, there is no one, I just talk, I just speak, I just present something in order to, we can say, practice and get fully prepared for the we can say the presentation that I would like to present in the audience. Due to that, I or someone else speaks with myself, or they speak with themselves in order to, we can say, practice and get fully prepared for the session they want to present there. And your questions are warmly welcomed. تشکر از همراهی و از توجهتان. و اگر کدام اشتباه لغزش زبان به میان آمده باشه، I'm so sorry، به خاطر که بسیار سخت است هنگامی که ژورنالیستام یک خبر یا یک چیز ارائه میکنه و با اشتباهات بسیار زیاد روبرو میشه که اشتباهات پسند ادیتر و ادیت میکنه، یعنی با وجود تجربه که آنها داره، بازم بر صورت خیر anyway اگر کدام اشتباه لغزش زبان باشه I'm so sorry و هر سوال را که داشته باشین اون در واتساپ میشه بر ما روان کنین و کارخانگیتان برای جلسه آینده شما باید یا را بخوانین و به طور اورال برای ما پریزنت کنین و در واتساپ ما روان کنین. تشکر، جهان سپاس.